Hey guys, Scott's Horse Race Down. This was talk about what type of horses won the Preakness. And Derby horses have not fared well in the last few years. American Pharoah in 2015 and Justify in 2018. In about the last 10, 11 years, that's the only two horses that's won the Preakness and they've both been Triple Crown winners. So if you don't think that Sovereignty's a Triple Crown winner, then he's probably really up against, if you go by history, for the Preakness. Derby winners typically do finish in the money for the Preakness. Mystic Dance second, 2024. May start. You can see on the screen, 2022, of course, Rich Strike didn't run. And then Medina Spirit third in 2021. Of course, 2019, No Country House. And that's also the same trainer for Sovereignty. Bill Mott trained Country House that year, in case somebody didn't know that. Uh, in 2017, Always Dreamer ran off the board. And that was kind of the one outlier as far as favorites not being, or Derby winners not finishing in the money for that. So I say this, Sovereignty certainly has a good chance to get, second or third in the Preakness. They more likely run third, than the second. But where do these runners come from that, race in the Preakness? Seize the Gray raced on the Derby undercard, and that's also a 2 week turnaround, even though it was a different race. And then National Treasure raced at Santa Anita. Of course, National Treasure was not, being a backer horse. That was when he was banned from racing at Churchill. So he couldn't race in the Derby, so naturally he could point this horse towards the Preakness. And then early voting raced at Aqueduct. And then Ron Bauer in 2021, he raced at Keeneland. And I left out 2020. That's the COVID year. It was ran in September. It just doesn't seem, with it being such an outlier, I didn't want to include it in this because different time of year, different patterns, different trends. Just figured to leave it out. And then 2019 Warble, he raced in the Derby off the 2 week turnaround. And then Justify won the whole Triple Crown in 2018. Of course, 2017 Cloud Competing raced at Aqueduct, and then Exaggerator, he raced in the Derby, and American Pharoah, of course, won the Triple Crown. So, you can see as seem like more recent years to me, horses that have are skipped the Derby, pointed the Preakness, and done a little bit better. Like National Treasure, early voting, Ron Bowers. I think the trend more, let's say like from 2013 to 2020 was more of horses that didn't win the Derby but ran a good effort and they could turn the tables in the Preakness. And of course that everything's going to go around Sovereignty and the Preakness. He's the winner of the Kentucky Derby. I thought visually it was an impressive race, but I've also thought other races throughout the years were impressive in the Derby, like Nyquist in 2016. I thought that was an impressive race. That's just one that comes. I thought Mage, a couple of years ago was an impressive race. So just because it's a visually impressive race doesn't mean it always translates to the, Preakness. And do you believe it's a Triple Crown winner? I personally, I don't think this horse is a super horse. You have to, prove it to me. But you never know. It could end up being, the super horse that just peaks at the right time. Um, if journalism enters, and this is the possible field so far, journalism was the favorite going to the Derby, maybe a shorter distance, better trip, no mud, he might be able to turn the tables or somebody like Rodriguez, Rodriguez is on my short list of, contenders. I'm very high, he has the, race in the Wood Memorial. If you go back, you can see that the, like National Treasure, like the Santa Anita Derby, is where he raced, and like early voting was in the Wood Memorial, Ron Bauer, in the Bluegrass. So these horses that have came out of at least a major, Derby prep before, it's not like they're just showing up out of completely nowhere. So I think Rodriguez being, fresh for the Preakness, of course Baffert has won this race, one, two, three times, in the last 10 years. So certainly he has a real good chance to do it. And, we'll see what happens. But, that's the betting chance for the Preakness. If you're trying to back Sovereignty to, win the Preakness, I would say you might want to, don't put everything on them. Just, there might be some value in a horse like Rodriguez, or, you might get value in a horse like Journalism. And I wonder as the bet trends come out, will Journalism wind up being the favorite, maybe again as people start trying to think that, that was the one off for Sovereignty and he won't do it again. Could Journalism be the favorite, or could somebody like, Rodriguez for Bob Baffert end up being the, favorite? I kind of hope for my personal sake that Rodriguez goes off at, 6 or 7 to 1, gets overlooked, because I do like the historical patterns, he displayed. And of course, in the third graph, he's definitely got, numbers that make him a major contender. So we'll see what happens, but thank y'all for watching. Plenty more to come.